hop over to, I want to look at the euro dollar first. Carolyn, I want you to talk to me. Carolyn just put some great posts in the Discord this morning regarding the DXY and how we trying to find some support here. And potentially we'll see how things move through the day today, but we'll see if we get a turn and a pushback to the upside. Broke back up below this level. We can take that out now. Boom. So that's where we sit there on the euro dollar. Carolyn, in the Discord, waiting on bullish candle on the daily to buy. So you stated that, we'll go down to the 4 and take a look at this real quick. You stated that you were afraid of the drawdown off of the original push on the lower time frames. What exactly are you afraid of? Losing money. Okay. So when we're in these situations, I like to have these conversations because I want to talk through the thought process with you, right? So first question is the trade in your sweet spot on whatever time frame you trade off of? And the reason I ask is we want to, in our trading plan, as we're building this out, see here on the 4-hour, we're pushing to that 382, and that's that support level off the daily time frame there. As we build our trading plan out, we want to build in questions that remove the emotion from the situation, right? Remove the emotion from the situation, right? So strictly yes or no questions, right? And this helps from the psychological perspective and being able to move through the emotion, right? Because it's going to be there regardless, right? But we want to move through it just by asking yes or no questions. So first question, is the trade in your sweet spot? You said yes, 618 retracement. Beautiful. Next thing is, what confirmations do you look for when you're looking to enter a trade? Right, so we see here price push down to that 618 retracement. That's that daily support level, and we're pressing sideways here. Swing low and break your retest on what time frame? On the 1 hour. All right, so looking at a break and a retest of the trend line. Okay. We've got trend lines running down. We'll run an inner trend line off the high. This is our low. We'll have some more conversation about this, but I just want to illustrate something for you. Actually, without cutting off any wicks or bodies, that would be the move there. And you see we press sideways through the trend line, right? So then we would go there, boom, right? So there's our move, right? Without cutting off any wicks or bodies, getting to the lowest point, and that's where we are, okay? So we zoom in here, and you got to break and you got to pull back. So what drawdown are you concerned about? Entering off of the break of the trend line here? Okay. So your rules say break and retest, right? Or break and pullback. Is the retest same as a pullback for you? Okay. So if you got a break, have it in the rest of this did not exist. If you got a break of the trend line there, are your rules met? Okay. So if your rules aren't met, would you have entered the trade? So would you be in drawdown? Bingo, right? She said no to those three questions. So you wouldn't be in drawdown. So therefore, it's nothing to be afraid of. Right? Nothing to be afraid of. You're waiting on the pullback. So now that you got the break and you got your pullback, is this trade in a position for you to enter? Are your rules met today? Now, no. Why aren't your rules met here? What else are you looking for? What other confirmations do you have in your trading plan? Why do you need another swing low to form? Confirm support. Okay. So at that point, would you adjust your trend line and move it further to the outermost point? Or two questions here. No? Okay, great. Um, would you then wait for, well, ask this question, if you get a bullish candle to confirm that swing low that looks like that, would you enter the trade? Why not? If that candle confirmed your swing low, why would you not enter the trade in that scenario? Yes, you would. Okay. So yes would be the answer there, right? Because it confirmed just you got your second swing low and it's a long bullish candle. The reason I'm asking that is you still could potentially get some drawdown here, right? And I want to make sure that you're thinking through that and you're ensuring that when you feel the fear, you go back to your trading plan and you look at your yes and no questions, right? Not being afraid of the drawdown because drawdown is going to happen, right? And not being afraid of losing a trade because losing a trade is going to happen, right? And so when we feel that fear of loss, right, we want to revert back to our rules and we retrain our brain and change the words that we're telling ourselves, right? Change the words that we're telling ourselves. Yes, I feel this emotion. What do my rules say? Are my rules met? Yes or no? Don't continue to add additional rules on top of that because we're afraid, but surely look at the rules that we have, the rules that we've talked about. Are they met? Yes or no? And if the answer is yes, then we pull the trigger. Um, but I'll have more confidence knowing that I had a strong bullish break on the 1 hour and a couple of swing lows that form. Why would you need a couple of swing lows to form if you have a bullish break of the trend line and a pullback? Because what I caution us doing, right, is looking for the perfect entry and less drawdown because it's going to happen. Because what happens if we get this bullish push here and then whoops, and then the market does this. Are you going to close your trade? Right? But you're in drawdown anyway, right? And then if the market continues to push down like this, right, now that fear continues to pick up. And then most people in this situation, they're going to close their trade because they're in drawdown, right? And then the market's going to do this. Oops, probably not that low, but right. So as you feel that fear, right? Correct. But you said more confidence because you have more swing lows, right? You can have swing lows all day long going across and moving to the upside. But if we delay in pulling the trigger, now price is going to move out of our sweet spot, and that drawdown that we could potentially see and that risk to reward that we talk about with price being in your 618 retracement zone, right, is going to be more because now you're entering a trade here instead of here, right? So I'm walking us through this because I want to ensure that as we're thinking through our process, we have rules, but we don't continue to add additional things that don't confirm anything, right? Because if you were to say, okay, I want to break a pullback and then a break of the cloud. Okay, you have 3 forms of confirmation because we're unsure of where the market is. So we add additional confirmation on top of that, right? But if we have a bias and we're looking at price moving in a particular direction, right? And our rules are met, we have to get to the point where we're pulling the trigger, right? If our rules are met, we have to pull the trigger and not add additional points because we're afraid, right? Because we're afraid of drawdown, right? We got to remind ourselves, drawdown is going to happen, right? There's no way to avoid it. And we've been trained in this space a lot of times that, oh, you have to have this perfect entry, right? It doesn't exist. The perfect entry is the entry on the trade that goes in your direction at some point, right? The perfect entry isn't having minimal drawdown, right? And if we try to play that game of timing the market, sniper entry, exactly, right? If we try to play that game of timing the market, we're going to get to a point where we're losing more than we win, right? Because the market, and we talked about this on Monday, but the market doesn't move on our time. The market moves on its time, right? So we have to retrain ourselves to follow the rules that we have in place and pull the trigger when those rules are met, not delay and look for more and more, because that list can then be endless and we never enter a trade, right? So we want to pull the trigger when our rules are met, when price comes into our sweet spot. And we want to simplify things in our process so that we don't overthink every trade and now we're trying to time the market because we don't want to have any drawdown, right? Does this make sense? And I hope this is helping, because this isn't just about Carolyn, because I was in this space before too. But the conversation this morning kind of spurred that thought, and I wanted to have it with everybody because we don't control this thing called financial markets, right? So therefore, if we don't control it, right, then we don't know when the market's actually going to change direction. So all we can then do is control what we can control, and what we can control is the rules that we have and forcing ourselves to follow those rules, right? But in those rules, perfect entry can't be a part of those rules because the perfect entry doesn't exist. And if we go back to the definition of perfect, right? By definition, nothing is perfect. Okay. So therefore, we won't have any perfect entries, right? will have entries that meet our rules, and we pull the trigger. We feel the fear, and we retrain our brain about the fear by pulling the trigger and doing it anyway, right? And we have to tell ourselves, drawdown is going to happen. Accept it from the beginning. But you then have to go back to your rules and ask yourself, did I do the math? If I know how much I have at risk, if I know how much I can lose, then I'm okay with that. Because I know that I'm not over leveraged, because that's where the fear really comes from. And that's how a lot of people are taught, right? Is when they're taught this game of perfect entries, they need a perfect entry because they're over leveraged and they can't take any drawdown, because if they do go on a drawdown, then they're going to blow their account, right? But if we know we did the math and we know that we're not over leveraged, then we can take drawdown. We know that this stop loss is 143 pips. And I'm okay with that because I'm only risking 1% of my account, right? I'm only risking 1% of my account. And if I'm only risking 1% of my account, then I have to lose 100 trades in a row in order for my account to be blown, right? Does that make sense? And if we have to lose 100 trades in order for our account to be blown, then this one trade going against us, it's okay. It's okay. And then we have to go back and tell ourselves, I'm going to lose trades. I'm going to lose trades. That's going to happen in this game. But as long as I do the math, as long as I know what I'm risking, and as long as I know that that's only 0.5%, 1/4%, 1% of my account, then if the trade goes against me, that's okay. Because I know I have 99 other trades that I could lose before my account is blown. And if I follow my rules, and my rules have an edge, then I won't lose 99 trades in a row, right? So, Reese, I would, on the prop firm, that's a great question. On the prop firm side of it, I would calculate the risk based on the actual value of the account, right? So if the overall drawdown is $4,000, right? That's for that total value of the account, right? And so you want to do the math on what the actual percentage that is. If it's 5%, right? That max loss is 5%. Then you want to do the math and break that down. Benny, correct me if I'm wrong on that statement. But so if it's $4,000 and the max drawdown is 5%, you're looking at $200.
Correct.
As your actual value of the account. And you want to do the math based on the $200, which is the actual value, not the face value of the account. That's where a lot of people get blown up. Does that make sense, Reese? Okay. So go ahead, Benny.
Yeah. So for example, if you got a $5,000 account, so if they say we're gonna start you at $5,000 and your max overall drawdown for that account. So if you hit that drawdown, you lose the account. It's 6%, right? That's 300. That's 300 bucks, right? 300 bucks. So you're actually starting out small. The 5,000, it really, in a sense, kind of represents the amount of leverage you have overall. And this is where people get burnt on those prop firms. So I'm trading. If I have a $5,000 account, they say your max drawdown is 6%. That's $300. So your max drawdown, you cannot lose $300 or whatever it is. Okay, I'm gonna work my risk off of that drawdown. That's what we'll find, or say if it's 10%, my drawdown is 10%. Well, that's 500 bucks, right? So you're gonna work all your calculations off of 500 bucks. So yes, you're gonna be trading at micros, right? Because they're gonna tell you to gain, maybe 10%. You see what I mean? So you're gonna be trading small. So I wouldn't focus on, when you're looking at those levels, right? To make it super simple, I wouldn't focus on the size of the account. I would focus on what the overall drawdown limit is in that account, because that's really what you're actually trading, right? So think about it. If they said, hey, we want you to make 10%, if your drawdown is 10%, sorry guys, hold on one second. I'm out.
Right. So,
All right. Yeah. So if your drawdown is 10% and say $500, then think about it. If I took 1%, right? If I traded 1%, my max drawdown, if I actually traded the 1% of the 5,000, I wouldn't be able to stay in the game long at all. Everybody follow us on that? Yes, no? I got one yes.
yep, we got them coming through. Yep. Joy,
Okay.
Carolyn, JC,
Okay.
Christina.
Right. So you're gonna trade small. This is like what you have to think about overall, right? If I'm gonna trade for a prop firm, like they're trying to evaluate if you have an edge in the market. Can you really, if you take a prop firm challenge or whatnot, or a test, if you take that challenge and you hit that goal in say 10 trades, does that really give you enough data to really truly figure out if you have an edge in the market? Yes or no? No, right? So they want you to trade small, show an understanding that you understand proper risk management and how to manage capital, and they want to see that over a good series of trades so the data could be collected, and it helps you develop your trade discipline. So when you do get to those higher levels,